What's up?
Hey, Claressa, how are you?
I'm good. How you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes to chat with me today. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for wanting to interview me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, kind of give me a sense what this last, week and a half has been like for you. Kind of a whirlwind. Signing with PFL, now you're out there training with the GOAT, John Jones. I mean, it's been kind of a crazy week and a half for you, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I signed a contract, it's like for the PFL, all these interviews start coming, and I was doing interviews, and I found myself having like anxiety because it was just like, yes, I'm trained. Like, yes, I'm signed to the PFL. Now I got to start training. I'm a person that believes in the 5 Ps and proper preparation prevents poor performance. Man, I just was like, I got to start getting prepared. So, um, it's so crazy how everything happened because I reached out to Dean Thomas first, and then Coach Wink reached out to me via social media, and of course, Johnny Bones reached out. Well, he always said it, if I ever came to MMA, like he would love for me to train with his coaches or whatever, and they would love to have me. But that was almost like 2 years ago. So I just wasn't able to sleep, and I wasn't able to eat for a few days, just thinking about everything I would have to do to get ready. And I finally been able to sleep because I've been out here for about, I don't know, 5, 6 days. And I can tell you, like, I have just learned so much. And it's taken a lot of my worries away, and I know that I can pick up on things quick as I already knew. I know I can adjust. I know I can learn. And I've been picking up on things that people don't learn in a week. I've been picked up on it and learned in a day. So that's been, great for me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let me backtrack, and I know you've answered this question 1,000 times already, but we spoke earlier this year. You're talking about your eventual transition to MMA, and you said that when you do it, you're going to do it right. You're going to take your time. You're going to make sure you're trained properly, and you're going to make sure you do everything the right way before you make your debut. At that time, I think a lot of people had said, "Well, you're going to work with the UFC because you had kind of established a relationship with Dana White. You'd been to a UFC event. A lot of people were already kind of buzzing about it." So what was it about PFL that made you decide that was the place you wanted to call home for your MMA future?
It was just the conversation. It wasn't like, hey, come and train a few months and then fight against the best girl we have at your weight. Like I feel like that's unfair to me. And it's not giving me enough time to learn. If you talking about letting me train for 2 years and then I fight against the best girl you have, all right, cool. But it just was like the conversation with Dana was really almost like it was like almost like a one fight deal, kind of a little bit. And then with the PFL was more of like, you know, let's train, let's start you off at this level, and as you work your way up, the competition will get harder, and then I will have a chance to fight in the PFL season in 2022. And also, too, I will still be able to box also. So, like, my boxing career isn't just over because I'm doing MMA. I actually have a boxing match in February. It just hasn't been announced yet. So it'll be announced. But I still get the box and I'm not being, rushed. And it's like a lucrative deal and a lucrative conversation, and where it wasn't like, it's a 3-year deal. It's not like, hey, you come over here and fight 2 times and then, go back to boxing. It's like, I'm a conqueror in everything I do, and I'm a winner. So I want to put myself in a position to always win.
Yeah, it sounds like PFL is making an investment in you as much as you're making an investment in them.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you want it to be. But I also feel like too, I'm still being, I'm still have to challenge myself, and that's why I'm here in Albuquerque with some of the best trainers and some of the best fighters. Like, I've been able to spend, 3 hours in the cage just learning from Johnny Bones and drilling with him, and I spent 2 hours to an hour with Holly Holm working on some kicks, and I mean, she kicks so fast and so hard. It's just showing me like what the real deal stuff is. And I've been able to work on things that I'm not good at as far as in wrestling right now. Like, when I came down here, I knew maybe, I don't know, 1% of wrestling. I can tell you over the last 6 days, I can tell you I know at least 10 to 15% now. Like, I've learned so much. And I've learned how to get up from being taken down. I learned how to, get the underarm hook, the double, everything. I've just learned, and I learned how to get out of that stuff. And it's just great to just be able to learn and to pick up on things to where I can say, like, at first I didn't know something, but now I know.
Yeah, absolutely. I know when this announcement was made, I mean, everyone kind of went crazy because we all knew it was going to eventually come. As I said, we spoke earlier this year and you said it would eventually happen, but there was no specific timeline for your, move to MMA. But I'm sure you've seen the attention. I know one of your frustrations, and you've talked about this openly in interviews, is, the attention that women's boxing doesn't necessarily get that it should get. You're the number one pound for pound fighter in the sport, but it's tough for you to get the kind of opportunities that you deserve. Seeing the attention, just this signing, you haven't fought yet, just the signing has gotten. Do you feel like that shows you the difference? And again, I'm not taking a shot at boxing, but again, MMA, we've seen it. We've seen the stars that women's fighters have been in MMA.
Yeah. I just feel like, I mean, it's just no secret. I've gained over 23,000 followers via social media and on, just Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Like, all my numbers have went up. I think I've been trending on Twitter. I've been trending on Google for the last 3 days. Just the support that the MMA world has been giving me, like transitioning over. Like, there's been some haters for sure, but it's been more people giving me, support. In that, I just, I get the support in boxing, but also too, it's like just the opportunities aren't there. Like, I haven't fought since January, and you see all the other guys fighting, all these small time fighters who aren't world champions fighting, but these networks are giving me trouble about me being on the card. Are giving me problems and not treating me equally. And I'm not the only female who is going through this. There's a lot of girls in America who are going through this. Like, right now, UK boxing is on fire with the women. But here in the US, since the coronavirus and even before then, it's just been like problems getting us on the cards. Like, on every MMA card, you see women on the card. They don't have to be main event, but you see women be main event, be co-main event, be the undercard. You just see women fighting. And in boxing in the USA, it has only, you'll see me fighting on TV. You'll see Michaela Mayer fight on TV, and she's fighting for ESPN. But Premier Boxing Champions don't have not one female fighter signed to their stable. The Zone has all the girls, but over there up in the UK. But here in the US, it's really just me and Michaela and maybe Amanda Serrano, but she still has a hard time getting fights and getting put on TV networks.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, like I said, I understand, like, that's the frustrating part. And ultimately, I know this move to MMA is just as much about athletic accomplishment. You want to be, the GOAT, as you say. You want to be the GOAT of all combat sports. But listen, at the end of the day, this is a career, right? You want those opportunities. You want to be able to make the money. You want to be able to get the attention you deserve. And as a two-time, gold medalist and the best boxer in the sport, you want that attention from your sport, right?
Yeah, of course. And I'll tell you, like, I'm one of the most respected women fighters there is. Like, when it comes to having, like, that respect, I am well respected, and I do have a large fan base. It's not the fans the reason why I'm not getting fights. It's the networks. It's the people that make the calls, the people who make the decisions. They're the ones who are holding a women's boxing back. They're the ones being unfair and being unjust. It's them. It's not us, the women fighters, and it's not the fans. It's the networks. It's them. They're the ones who don't want to give us opportunities and don't want to give us a chance to shine for whatever their reasons are. I believe that they say, like, boxing is a man's sport, and they haven't come to accept that boxing is a sport. It doesn't matter about gender. And when boxing gets on that board, then boxing will grow. But right now, it's at a standstill to where they having all these exhibition fights because no other fights can get the attention, because it's not like a freaking circus show. Like, I love watching Mike Tyson fight against Roy Jones recently. It got over 2.5 million views or, buys. What male fighter has done that except for, I don't even know if Floyd Mayweather numbers was higher than that. I think him and Conor McGregor was 675,000 or something. I really can't even recall, but I know 1.25 million pay-per-view buys for Roy Jones versus Mike Tyson in the undercard of Jake Paul versus Nate Robinson. Like, Jake Paul versus Nate Robinson, really? that's the fight that you put on. But if you have two big fighters fight against each other, let's say Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford, I don't think they can do numbers like that. Not because they're not popular, but because boxing hasn't become equal yet. And if they keep leaving the women out, it's going to be at a standstill for a very long time.
Yeah. And then here you come into MMA, as you mentioned, day one, getting so much attention. You're working with Holm, of course, one of the biggest names in the sport. Kayla Harrison, most would say, is the face of the PFL in a lot of ways. Ronda Rousey, of course, was one of the biggest stars in sports, not just, MMA. And obviously you want those opportunities to eventually fight Kayla Harrison, to eventually, maybe fight an Amanda Nunes, those kind of big fights. And those are marquee, huge fights in our sport.
I'm not really gonna say who I want to look forward to fighting. It's all about the PFL, about controlling your own destiny. So if me and Kayla Harrison is in the same tournament, if we're in the same season, and we both have to fight our way to the top. So who knows who I'll be fighting against? It may be Kayla, it may not. Who be in the finals? Because I envision myself being able to make it to the finals in 2022, but I'm not just going to put I'm looking forward to fighting her or fighting this person. I personally believe that Amanda Nunes is too small for me. I'm a 155, 154, 160, and 168 pound fighter in boxing. And so I'm going to fight 155, but UFC doesn't have 155. And I don't think that my body can make 145.
Yeah, totally understandable. Let me ask this, Claressa, as you're making your transition, part of it, and again, this goes back to our conversation earlier this year, is you weren't going to rush yourself. You're going to make sure you're taking the time. And you said you went from, 1% knowledge in wrestling to 10 to 15% knowledge in wrestling already, which is amazing. And obviously you're an incredible athlete, so you're going to pick up things quicker than the average person stepping into a gym. But are you setting timelines on when you want to make your debut? Obviously, it sounds like PFL is going to be very patient with you. You got a boxing match coming up in February. Are you saying, hey, I'd like to fight by a certain date? Or are you just going to see how you evolve and then call them and say, hey, I'm ready?
We already have a deadline for that. That's why I'm working now and I'm learning right now. I'm looking forward to fighting in May, June of next year, my MMA pro debut.
Wow, that's exciting. I know you got to be excited.
Yeah, I'm excited and I'm just ready to prove everybody wrong. Not everybody, but all the doubters. It seemed like everybody keeps saying anybody that's come from boxing can be successful in MMA. Look at James Toney. And I kind of laugh because I'm like, James Toney was 42 years old. I'm 25. And he also was 42 years old and he went there. I don't know how long he prepared, but he fought against one of the best guys that they had. And it's not that I wouldn't do that, but it's I'm more preparing. I'm taking it one step at a time. And I'm not an egotistic person. I can tell you, I am the best woman fighter in the world. There is no other woman fighter that can beat me in boxing, for sure. But going over to a whole other sport and saying that it's just not true right now. I have to work my way up from the bottom and learn and drill and put in that 10,000 hours to be great at something. I haven't put in that 10,000 hours yet, but I put in a hell of a lot of time in just this past week, and I got 10 more days to put in more time.
Yeah. Before I get you out of here, let me ask that question. You mentioned working with John Jones, Holm, obviously working with Coach Mike Winklejohn, the great team out there at Jackson's. You mentioned Dean Thomas. Have you figured out, because obviously in MMA, we always talk about your training camp, who you're going to train with. Sounds like you're going to be kind of a jack of all trades and work with a lot of different people, but will you eventually settle on one team, or are you going to kind of travel and be a bit of a nomad when it comes to your training?
I'm definitely going to settle with one team. I think that's just best for my life. I don't like having to travel everywhere to get different things. I kind of like everybody's minds to work together because I feel like that's what MMA is. Boxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai. They all kind of, you mix them together. And I don't want to have to have a coach teaching me strictly wrestling. And then the wrestling doesn't go with everything else. I have to make it work with my boxing. I have to make it work with my kicking and make it work with Muay Thai. I got to make it all, mix it together and be the fighter that I'm supposed to be, that works out best for me. So knowing a good amount of everything is great. But it's some stuff you do in wrestling, you wouldn't even do inside the cage because you would get kneed or you get, put in bad positions, right? But then there's some stuff also in jujitsu that that you start learning, and it may be a different belt, but you will never have to use it in an MMA fight. So it's just knowing what stuff to learn and what to mix in with how I am and how I fight and my strengths and my weaknesses, and kind of mix them all together to get a complete fighter.
Absolutely. Well, Claressa, we're very excited to have you in MMA. I cannot wait to see you make your debut. Obviously, excited to see you work with the PFL, and congrats on the deal. I know the hard work has already started, and I know your message is out there. You want to be the greatest of all time, and it sounds like you are absolutely working your way to doing that, starting in 2021 with your debut.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Claressa. I really appreciate the time today.